Good morning, Facebook. Let's get Instagram going. Welcome to Coffee and Questions on Friday morning. Hope everyone's going okay. Today we get to talk about my favorite topic, Triathlon Nutrition. So exciting. Just to celebrate the launch of my new Triathlon Nutrition online course that's coming out this weekend. Well, it's kind of live already. A few people know about it, but not everyone knows about it. So we're going to talk about a little bit about that today. Good morning, everyone on Insta. Good morning, Megan. Hope you've got a coffee. So before we get started today, though, I just wanted to quickly let you know that our winter menu for the weekly menu planner service starts this weekend. So there's a bunch of people on the wait list that kind of didn't get into the first round. So if you're sitting on the fence around whether you should do it or not, doors only open for a week or two, and then they close again until next menu launch, until next quarter. So if you want a dietitian to plan your dinners for the week for you and give you a whole shopping list and all the recipes that go with it as well, then now's your opportunity to jump on and get inside the weekly menu planner before I close it off again. So just FYI, if that's what you wanted to do, then now's your opportunity to do it. Good morning, Keza on Facebook. Megan says, you bet she's drinking a coffee. Good work, Megan. It's the only way to start a Friday. All right, so I've got a couple of questions around triathlon nutrition this morning too, but if you've got any questions, feel free to jump on in and I'll answer them for you. I'll try and move Insta a bit closer to Facebook without blocking the screen. Definitely need a double webcam action happening, but that's okay. I don't have that happening. All right, let me sort out all my millions of screens that are going on, and I'll keep Facebook open, keep Insta open. All right, technology, hey? There's got to be a better way. There's got to be a better way to do this, so that's okay. I'm not too bad technically, but can't get the dual Facebook Insta Live thing happening seamlessly. All right, so I might answer the questions at the end too, because I can see that the people that have asked them aren't online yet, so I'll save those to the end. So let's get stuck into some triathlon nutrition, because I wanted to kind of run you through some of the common mistakes that I see triathletes make all the time. Like, it's really quite common. I've worked in private practice with triathletes for a long time now, and also work with our elite triathlon team in Australia. So like, even some of the elites make these mistakes, and I guess it's just kind of bread and butter of triathlon nutrition is getting some of these foundations right first before you start looking to put the sprinkles on the icing on the cake. Because I see a lot of people go to supplements and, you know, quick fixes and magic pills and stuff like that, when really they just haven't nailed some of the basic foundations. So there's kind of five mistakes I see triathletes make with their nutrition all the time. And it's something I go through with all my clients, just to try and get these foundations laid, because once you do that, then you can build on all those principles. You have so much better success in the sport, because triathlon's a three sport discipline, right? We swim, we ride, we run. And there's not really a lot of other sports like it. So I guess my number one mistake that I see people make is that they eat the same thing every day. It's really, really common. And when you do three sports, somebody's trying to get into my live video. That's not going to happen, sorry. When we do three sports, you have, I guess, three different like metabolic adaptations that you need to make, or like the way that your body works for each of those sports is quite different, because you need to run. That's totally different to swimming, which is again totally different to cycling, whereas a runner just focuses on running. A swimmer just focuses on swimming, and a cyclist just focuses on the adaptations from cycling. So you've got to balance all of those three things. And no training day is ever the same for a triathlete. Like, each week you'll have the same sort of rhythm, but a Monday is always different to a Tuesday, which is always different to a Wednesday. It's very rare to see 2 days the same in a week. And so you should never eat the same thing if your training is not the same. So you need to have some sort of scalability with your nutrition to support that training load up and down across the week. so that you can get the best bang for your buck out of your training, because otherwise you're kind of wasting your time and you're doing a lot of junk miles. And what we really want to do, just realized that I haven't got you guys plugged in. What we want to do is, you know, eat differently on a rest day versus a really heavy double session, triple session day. And then even like a long ride or long run day needs to be a bit different. So I commonly see people under eating carbohydrate on really heavy days, and then playing catch up on rest days or lighter days. And then the weekends are a bit of a free for all too. So what I try and get my clients to know and understand and learn is that you should be able to scale up when you need to and scale down when you need to as well. It's really important. I have written a blog on periodization, but it doesn't sort of teach you how to do it. So I think it's definitely something worth going through with a sports dietitian that specializes in endurance sport and in particular triathlon, so that you can get an understanding of what your fuel needs are on each day and have a plan to suit a rest day versus a heavy day versus a moderate day, so there is some scalability, because then you'll feel so much better for it as well. You have so much more energy for training, and then you're not playing catch up on the weekends with your nutrition. You're not putting yourself at risk of injury or illness as well. So just some basic foundations of getting your nutrition, sorry, I just flipped you guys. Getting your nutrition sorted right across your week. So that's one huge big factor in getting your triathlon nutrition right and making sure you have that adaptability across your week. All right, so number 2, triathletes are particularly bad at recovery nutrition without some education as well. And particularly females, I'm going to throw you under the bus here, sorry. It's quite generalist. But females are very poor at recovery nutrition. I think there's something a bit like in our psyche. Good morning, Feed Your Future. There's something in the female mentality around not eating after training, because we probably think that that's going to help with weight management, or we're not hungry so we don't eat, whatever the reason. Females are particularly bad at their recovery nutrition, but males can also be not doing a very good job either. So I talk about this most weeks actually, ticking off the 4 R's of recovery to get your recovery nutrition nailed. And that's something they'll go through in the Triathlon Nutrition course. There's a whole lesson on recovery nutrition and how to do that properly. And I also teach you how to plan your perfect recovery meal. So there's a certain sort of target for carbohydrate you should aim for. There's a certain target for protein you should aim for. And I'm going to teach you how to do that exactly in the course, so that you've got a recovery meal that's perfectly formulated for you, because it needs to be formulated for you. You can't really eat the same as the person next to you unless you're the exact same person and your goals are the same. What your training load looks like is the same as well. So one of the other key factors that I think triathletes need to improve is making sure they do a really good job of that recovery, and I guess knowing also when it's important to be aggressive with recovery and getting that in within that window of opportunity, and then also when it's not so important to be aggressive with recovery nutrition. So that, again, it's like making sure we're not eating the same thing all the time or each day if our week doesn't look the same each day. How are you going over there on Facebook, Catherine? You're quiet. All right, the third mistake that I see triathletes make, good morning, Lee, is that they do a really poor job of fueling hard sessions and fueling long sessions. So they're very underfueled all the time. And so again, there's something in the mentality around not eating during training, thinking that's going to help with our performance or help with weight management or body composition or whatever. But let me tell you that if you throw more fuel at a session, you can train harder and faster. And if you do that, then you're actually burning more calories overall. And so it's better to actually be a bit more aggressive with your fueling in those sort of key performance sessions where you need it the most, rather than just constantly trying to scale back. We want to scale back where we need to strategically and scale up where we need to strategically as well. Catherine said, I'm listening to you while I crack open some near exam prep, your soothing voice. I wouldn't say I have a soothing voice, but that's cool. Whatever keeps you happy, Catherine. All right, so yeah, definitely having a plan for long rides is key so that you know what you're doing on days like that, because a long ride that's like 3-4+ hours is totally different to an hour and a half sort of short, sharp speed session. And so you want to have a different strategy for those different types of sessions across your week as well, rather than just doing the same thing for both. Okay, so I guess, well, long rides is one of the lessons we go through in the course, and I'm going to teach you exactly sort of how much and what to have during sessions like that. And then your job is to then go and build on that if you can, depending on what sort of level you're at currently. So definitely a common mistake is that people underfuel sessions like that when really we should be a bit more aggressive. And I'd rather you know that so I can teach you how to do it properly, because then you're going to get so much better bang for your buck out of your training. And then you're going to be able to back up again and go for a swim in the afternoon, or go for a long run the next day, or back up and just continue on with your week without slothing on the couch for the rest of the day. Which is one of the reasons one of my clients came to see me originally. Like, one of her goals was to be able to get off the couch on the weekend after a long ride and not get divorced. And then I guess also not bonking on sessions like that as well. So you've got enough fuel to get through to the end, and you're not dragging your ass home or stopping to get a Slurpee or a Coke or something to get your butt back rather than scraping yourself off the bitumen. All right, so that's my first 3 mistakes I see triathletes make all the time with their nutrition. Really common for a lot of people to do that. So if that's kind of resonating with you, thinking, yep, I do at least one of those things, then I definitely suggest getting some nutrition advice from a sports dietitian, because fumbling through that, it's a quick, easy fix, and you'll feel so much more benefit from doing all of those 3 things properly. And it doesn't take long to implement. It's not hard either, but just with a bit of education from the right person, you'll be flying. All right, number 4 up to, I commonly see people not have any sort of race nutrition plan. It's a little bit scary, but you know, you can fake it till you make it in sprint and even Olympic distance a little bit. But if you're stepping up to longer course like 70.3 and Ironman, then you definitely can't. There's not as much room for mistakes. But I guess the number 1 rule of racing is never try anything new on race day, right? And so I often see people that, one, don't have a plan, so they don't know what they're doing, that they're not sort of methodical or systematic in their approach to start with. I also see people follow just what works for their training buddies, which drives me nuts, because your training buddy is not you, okay? They are totally different to you, unless they're your height, your age, your weight, your gender, metabolically the same as you. Whatever works for them is unlikely to work for you. And you know, it might feel like it works, but there's probably an alternative strategy that's going to work better for you, rather than just following along what someone else is doing. And I guess, like, being a bit of a sheep in the herd, kind of getting caught up in what other people are doing as well and feeling like you should do the same. So you really need to have some focus and some structure around your racing, rather than just winging it, because that's obviously going to be fine for a sprint race, but it's not really going to be fine for an Ironman or a 70.3. And I guess the other thing around racing is that people don't have any sort of planned recovery nutrition, which is a huge mistake that you can make, because you tend to sort of faff around at the finish line for ages, and then you talk to your mates, you take some photos for the gram, and then you go and get your bike, and then you finally make it back and have a shower, and you still haven't eaten anything properly. And it's multiple hours after racing. And in that window there, your immune system is compromised. So you want to make sure you're way more aggressive with your recovery nutrition than you ever are post-race, compared to what you might be in training. So I always plan specific recovery for people as part of Nicola said those bonks are the worst type of bonks. We're talking about bonking on long rides. So bonking is a term for like hitting the wall where you don't have any muscle glycogen left, and you're scraping yourself off the pavement because you don't have any fuel left. So yeah, it's called bonking or hitting the wall. Definitely doesn't feel nice if you've ever experienced it. And the only way to get yourself out of that hole is like short, sharp digestible sugars like Coke and lollies and stuff, but it still feels crap. And then you also have a good 24 hours of eating carbohydrate again to top them back up again to be able to train. But likely that your whole next week of training is interrupted and you feel fatigued and quite crap in sessions as well. I use that term bonking quite sort of liberally. I figure that everyone, all my clients and all of the people that kind of know me and follow me know that I'm an endurance sports dietitian. So bonking, that's what bonking means in my language. All right, Catherine said my race plan is do what Taryn tells me to. See, good client. I write her a plan and she follows it. Funny. All right, so yeah, planned recovery is really important, and I always plan recovery as part of a race nutrition plan. It doesn't stop on the run. It continues beyond that as well, and that's really important to, one, like make sure that you don't get horrendous DOMs, which is quite common, and do all that kind of muscle recovery, muscle synthesis and repair post. Two, to make your immune system relax a little bit, because it is compromised for a good up to 72 hours after a really hard session like that. And they're probably the two main reasons why I do it, but there's certainly more as well. And I guess a lot of people drink after racing, which, like, whatever, it's fine. It's not ideal. We know that alcohol blocks the muscle protein synthesis pathways, and so you're actually doing muscle damage or not doing a good job of your recovery if you drink after hard sessions or racing. But it's kind of the culture. So as long as you've done like your recovery plan as I've laid it out for you, then whatever happens after that, I don't care. I can't stop you. It's fine. As long as you know the risks and that it's not beneficial, then my job is done. All right, so they're the first 4 mistakes that I see triathletes make all the time. And again, like Catherine's online here, I would suggest, sorry to call you out on this, Catherine, but I reckon you were doing all 4 of those things before we started working together when she did Cairns Ironman. Oh, not last year. Was it the year before? Last year. I'm losing track of time. But now, like, she's got it nailed. So go follow her on Insta. She's the Reconstructed Triathlete if you want to follow on her journey. It's pretty fun. Okay, and then the 5th and final mistake that I see triathletes make is that they get nutrition advice from the wrong places. So, like, a lot of people, before they've seen a professional, they'll get advice from training buddies, or like older athletes in their squad, or just kind of watching people online as well and seeing what they're doing and copying what they're doing. But you have different metabolic needs to any of your training buddies, like I said before, and particularly older athletes. If you're new to the sport, your requirements are totally different to somebody that's been doing the sport for like 5-10 years. Okay, so you shouldn't just go and copy what somebody else is doing for that reason. And like in terms of experience, and then also age too. If the age is really different, then your metabolic needs are totally different, and you shouldn't be kind of following advice from people that are a different age. Because what works for them, they've probably been perfecting that for 5 to 10 years, right? So they know exactly what works for them. Like, I've got a cyclist who knows exactly how far he can get on a banana, right? When he's out doing long, hard rides. Like, he knows that to the minute. So these people have experience in racing and training and knowing how their body works and what nutrition fuels them the best. And, you know, like, you could try it, but chances are it's not going to be the perfect plan for you, and you're going to need to sort of perfect something over time as well. Catherine said 100%. I was terrible. Sorry to call you out, Catherine. But yeah, you're a good example of like what I commonly see in private practice is just people doing all these things over and over and over. And it's a really easy fix. Oh, my coffee's cold. I really should drink it and not talk. All right, so yeah, don't get advice from older, more experienced athletes. It's kind of not. Good morning, Try It Chick. It's not a good move, okay? And for those reasons that I just talked about. The other place that people get nutrition information from is just all the crap on the internet. And so one of the reasons why I wanted to create this course online is to make that information more accessible to more people, from an actual credible source, rather than just people reading crap on the internet. So a lot of people come to see me and they're like, oh, I've read this and heard that, and what do you think about this? And I guess you just need to know who's written it or where it's from and what their background is. Good morning. Good morning, Triat Chick. So yeah, like anyone can post on the internet, right? And you don't know what their background is or what their qualifications are and where they're coming from. So just be careful with reading crap on the internet, particularly when there's waves of things that come through like keto and stuff like that. Just be quite careful. Chances are those people haven't read like original research papers. They've just probably pulled information from other blogs together to create their blog. So definitely reading crap on the internet is not as fun for me to kind of squash, because there is just so much misinformation out there. The other place that I would suggest, like if you need nutrition advice for a particular thing, is to go and see a professional in that area. So, my experience is Triathlon Nutrition. Like if you are a triathlete, then you go and see a Triathlon Nutrition sports dietitian. There was a dietitian on here maybe a month ago that asked me about SIBO. Like that is not my area of expertise. So I didn't answer that question because it's not my area of expertise. Like I can fumble through it, but why give you crap information when you could go and see somebody that works in that day in, day out. Same as like eating disorder clients. Like if somebody comes through and manages to slip through the net into my clinic, I will happily refer them on to somebody that specializes in that and works in that day in, day out. So same goes for like a general dietitian versus a sports dietitian. Go and see a general dietitian for more healthy eating advice, weight management, chronic disease sort of stuff. Whereas if you are an athlete and you're an active person and you want to maximize your training benefit and racing, then go and see a sports dietitian. Go and see somebody that is a specialist in whatever area it is that you need. So you're getting the best advice. They're up to date. Like it's kind of like a GP versus a surgeon, right? You don't go to the GP to get your knee recon done. You go to a specialist surgeon who just does knee recons day after day after day. So making sure that you are getting the advice from a professional, but also somebody that specializes in that area as well. And then I guess the final place that people get their misinformation from, and this one probably irritates me the most, so apologies because I know there's a few coaches on here, is your coach. Unless your coach has a degree in nutrition, is specialized in sports nutrition, then they're not really qualified to give you advice. So it's the same kind of concept as getting your advice from an older, more experienced athlete. And the coaches that I work with are so good at saying, like if people, like, because they get asked questions all the time, the coaches that I work with are like, look, you could try this, go and see Taryn, go and talk to Taryn and she can give you a plan. But what grinds me up the wrong way the most is people getting advice from supplement companies. Okay, so there's a bunch around, particularly locally here in Queensland. There's a couple of supplement companies that offer like consults with people to tell them what they need, but you should have a massive red flag go up when a supplement company is offering you advice, right? Because they're trying to sell you their shit. Like they are trying to advise you on what you need based on the products that they have and formulate a plan to get you to buy more stuff. Okay, so it's really common. So just kind of be careful around that. It's better if you get an independent person to review those products and tell you what you could use or how you would use it properly, that's not getting paid by that company to recommend that product. So yeah, that one drives me up the wall the most, particularly when the person providing advice has no nutrition background whatsoever. So yeah, I'm sure you can see that my blood's already boiling. But yeah, please just try and get some advice from the right place. Do your research, figure out who's an expert in the area that you're looking for, and yeah, it may be a bit more of an investment for sure, but it's worth it in the long run because you're not spending all that time wasted going down rabbit holes or in the wrong direction. You're getting a plan or getting advice straight away that you know is going to work, and you just need to tweak it. All right, so need to just cool down after that one. Catherine said, what did Catherine say on Facebook? There's a lot going on from you now, Catherine. And there's stuff going on Insta as well. Hold on, let me catch up. Okay, so Catherine said, the meal plan we had created for Ironman wasn't hard to follow. I was an eat the same thing every day person, but with really small changes that became super adaptable and easy to mix things up. I still had a really simple plan to follow and didn't have to cook every day because for me that just isn't doable. And now I get really cranky with people around me when they're eating poorly. The way I see it now, if you're injured, you see a physio. If you're sick, you see a doctor. If you don't know what you're doing with nutrition, go see someone who is trained in it. Yes. Catherine, you need to write that on like a Google review or something, mate. I'll send you the link to do it. That's exactly right. That's a really good summary of like how it works, right? You go and see a specialist for that area. And I love, like once I've got somebody in a squad that's doing something particular on a long ride, everyone starts doing it. Like my secret stacks and my bike bars recipe, which is free on the website. There's a lady up in Mackay. She'll watch the replay. She makes a batch of bike bars for the whole squad for each long ride, and she eats maybe 2, and the rest, it makes 12. The rest get palmed out to everyone else on the ride. So everyone's benefiting from a bit of nutrition advice in that squad as well. Funny. All right. Good morning, Trudy. Let me catch up on Instagram. What's going on here? Fiji Future said, yes, as soon as someone says check out this video equals red flag. Agree. Although I do that a little bit. Watch my video. Watch my coffee and questions. And she also said that's why they stopped baby formula companies to be able to provide free samples in hospital. Yeah, so a lot of that stuff. I guess as dietitians we're taught to think critically. And so when there's ever a new product or anything on the market, we kind of think critically through that rather than just jump straight on the bandwagon of like, yes, this is the newest shiny thing, let's try it. It's like, all right, what's it made of? Where did it come from? Is there any evidence that it works? So it's just having an understanding of that rather than, yeah, just jumping straight in. Whew. Okay, good chat, guys. So the Janet who asked the question is still not online actually, so hopefully she's watching the replay. Unless you are there, Janet, and I've missed you, just give me a holler if you're there. So Janet wants to know around, I didn't write the question down, but she wants to know whether she should do fasted training for triathlon and a bit about keto. So as part of the triathlon course, there's a whole lesson on pre-training nutrition, and I'll talk you through exactly that, like if you eat, when you eat, why you should eat and why you shouldn't eat. So it's kind of the number one mistake that we talked about in the beginning is people eating the same thing every day. You really need to have structure and strategy to maybe do some sessions fasted, depending on the type of session they are, because you'll get some benefit out of that. And then other sessions you want to do really fueled as well. So having some structure and some strategy rather than just doing one approach all week. Because there's certainly sessions that I wouldn't do fasted. You put yourself at risk of damaging your bones and like limiting iron absorption. So you're running the risk of getting sick and injured. But then there's other sessions that are totally fine to do fasted. So it's just having that structure and strategy depending on what type of day it is, what you're doing, where you are in your season, and what your overall goals are as well. So there might be like a pre-season where I'll do a bit more fasted training with somebody to do some fat burning, get those fat oxidation pathways working more effectively. But then when we're in like peak training season or race season, we're throwing fuel at everything. Well, not everything, but yeah, it's just having that ebb and flow across your seasons and your weeks as well. So it's not eating the same thing every day. And then in terms of keto, that's a whole other kettle of fish that we could talk about for hours. So Janet's a female. There's not as much evidence around keto with endurance sports and females. So it's kind of early days in that research, but guys seem to benefit more from fasted training, lower carbohydrate, whereas females, because we have estrogen and a few other hormones that change across the month, there's less thought that that diet is as beneficial in certain cases, or we just don't kind of respond as well, because females are not small men. So early days. Keto we could talk about forever. It's hard to give a quick answer on keto, unfortunately. But I think if pre-training nutrition is something that you want to learn about, then go and do the course, and we'll go through pre-training nutrition a whole lesson. So you get an understanding of when to do sessions fasted, when to fuel, and how much and what you kind of need to do pre-training. So on that, good morning, Jules. So on that, I know a few of you online to know about the course. I kind of was a bit sneaky with saying, if you want to know about it, jump on live. So I've put together a 10-part video series on triathlon nutrition, and it's perfect for anyone that is new to the sport or has never had any triathlon nutrition education before, because I go through all of the things that you need to know to get started, all those foundations that everyone needs to know. Like every triathlete needs to know these things before they start building on that and getting deeper into nutrition. So we go through just some of the nutrition basics, and then build on pre-training nutrition, recovery nutrition. I do cramping and hydration stuff, and I give you a worksheet to work out your an estimate of your sweat rate that you can do over and over and over again. Also go through some sprint race nutrition and some basics of Olympic distance race nutrition, carbohydrate loading, and there's two important nutrients that I think triathletes need to be aware of and on top of, and that probably needs to go on my mistake list, is people don't get enough calcium in their diet. And the other thing is, not all, but a lot of people have low iron stores or are at high risk of being iron deficient. So the people that are high risk of iron deficiency are females, because we lose iron each month in our menstrual cycle. Endurance athletes, because we're pounding the pavement every time we run, and when we strike our heels, we burst open our red blood cells. It's called red blood cell hemolysis. We lose iron that way as well. We bleed a bit through our gut when we train. So particularly when we're training hard and we're doing big volumes, we're losing a fair bit of iron that way. So as an endurance sort of athlete, a triathlete is more at risk of being iron deficient. It's just something you need to keep on top of and have a good awareness around how to enhance your iron absorption from food, and also how not to block it, because a lot of triathletes like coffee and drink coffee in times where we shouldn't be drinking coffee, and we're sort of affecting our iron absorption. We're inhibiting it in those windows where we need to not be doing that as well. So that's another one of the lessons that I go through in the course, because I think that's really important that people have got a good understanding of that. Alex said, P.S. totally coming back after this bub, Taryn. You're welcome, Alex. What have you got, like 10 weeks to go or something, Alex? Good morning, Art, registered foodie. All right, so that's a bit of a rundown of the course, guys. I'll link the URL to go and check it out in here. At the moment, I've got it down at a huge discounted price of $299, down from $500. So I'm going to leave it there for the next week or two, and then it'll go back up. So if you want to jump on and get access to it now before it goes up by a couple of $100. It's like nutrition gold nuggets, and it's something that I would go through with somebody over probably like a 3-month period, going through all of these types of topics and getting them all implemented and practiced, so that by the time you get to race day, you just it's a breeze. And then you're starting to get the benefit of that as well. So you've got all of the foundations, right? And then once you've done the course and you've got the foundations, then you don't stop there, right? You keep going. there's so much to know about triathlon nutrition, but I want as many people to have access to the basics and the foundations, because this is commonly what people don't do properly, and then suffer for it. And then I see people like years later, they're like, finally invest in a sports dietitian, and they're like, where were you like 5 years ago when I started? So it's worth the investment to do it early. Or if you haven't ever had a nutrition education, this is like the cheapest, most cost-effective, easiest way to get it. And you can do it from the comfort of your own home. So I'll link in here the course, so you can go check it out. Definitely jump on and get it while it's a good price. And I guess reach out if you need anything. Towards the end of this year, the Triathlon Nutrition Academy is going to launch. And that's going to build on that course, basically. So I need you guys, if you want to do that, to go and do that course. And then we're going to build on that in the Triathlon Nutrition Academy and just get you all like smashing the fourth leg of triathlon, which is nutrition. So Nell said, my hormone levels are pretty much non-existent at the moment. I'm struggling with fatigue after training. Does your course cover that, or can you help me with that? I'm getting it sorted, but I'm wrecked. So there's no specific info now on the hormone sort of stuff, but certainly like the foundations of what you do before training, what you do after training, trying to get that nutrition sorted across the week. Hydration could be a thing as well, and yeah, making sure you're doing a good job of your recovery. So the hormone conversation is a big one. I'm gonna deal with that in the Triathlon Nutrition Academy towards the end of the year. We're still kind of quite early days around like learning about that. There's a lot of studies, but there's not a lot in, like, the studies are taken from all different areas and pieced together rather than it coming like specifically from triathletes or endurance athletes or whatever. So yeah, still early days, although there's a lot of information kicking around online around that at the moment. But I guess just be careful with where that source is from. But yeah, we're definitely starting to learn more around hormones and when you should be training and when you're more like insulin resistant versus not. But it could just be time of life too now. Yeah, the course definitely doesn't go into that because it's huge, and it's really hard to give general advice on that. And rather you get specific advice to help with that. But certainly if you haven't got those foundations now of pre-training, post-training, day-to-day stuff sorted, then it can help you now some of that to start with, which is what I would do with you anyway, before moving on to more complicated things. Because if you don't have the cake base built, you know, that sponge foundation, then you can't do the icing. It's not going to go, it's going to stay. And then you also, there's nothing for the sprinkles to hold on to too. So we need to build the foundations of, kind of think of like a pyramid. The foundations at the very bottom are like day-to-day eating and nutrition to support training, like healthy diet plus sports nutrition, which gets built on top of that to make sure you're doing a good job supporting your training. And then once you get those first two layers done, then we start looking at like fine-tuning things around like hormones and supplements and heaps of other things. So definitely you need to start at the base. But most people start this direction, right? They start with the like 1%ers down the bottom, the supplements that's going to, like, I don't know, improve performance, whatever. And then they do the sports nutrition stuff, and then they're like, hang on a minute, I'm not even eating like 2 pieces of fruit a day. So you definitely need to flip it, get those foundations right first before moving on to more complicated things. All right, good chat, guys. Yeah, Alex said 30 weeks to go, can't wait. You still got 10 weeks of hard slog to go yet, Alex. The hard bit hasn't started yet. All right, try it, chick. Does that answer your question a little bit? Jump onto the URL to the course and just have a read through what it covers and see if it's going to meet your needs. But if you haven't done any of those things with a sports dietitian before, I definitely recommend doing it. And it's super cost-effective way to do it. And at least you've got some of those foundations nailed as well. All right, guys, if there's no other questions, we might start to wrap up. Just a reminder that if you want to get in the weekly menu planning service, the doors open now and they're going to close again in a week or two. So if you want in, this is the opportunity, and we're about to start a delicious and nutritious winter menu. that's got lots of nice, warm, comfort food in it, but also still ticking all those nutrition boxes because, you know, all the recipes are dietitian approved at the end of the day. But it doesn't feel like it. So Catherine often posts photos of the food and the meals, and she's like, this can't be healthy. But the perks of having an advanced sports dietitian plan recipes for you and do your whole weekly meals for you is that you are getting good nutritious food whether you feel like it or not. In fact, Kim's been doing it for, I don't know, maybe 2 months now. I think maybe even a bit less, and she's like, this is just a complete side note of the program. It's not designed for this, but she's lost 4 kilos just by having some consistency in her nutrition and having all the stress and effort of planning it taken away and off the table for her. And she doesn't have to think, she just has to shop and cook and eat. So that's pretty cool. All right, Try It Chick says, thank you. Yes, I definitely needed the foundation. I definitely need the foundation sorted. Yep. So I think everyone needs to do that. And those 5 mistakes that I talked about in the beginning, you need to, if any of those resonated with you and you're like, should I do that? Should I do that? Should I do that? Make sure you get those things sorted first before trying to move on to more complicated things. Okay. So yeah, like I said, it's a really easy fix to get some of these things sorted and you get some education. And then you can move on, right? You've got that day-to-day stuff done and you don't have to stress about it. You don't have to worry about not being able to back up the next day or being fatigued or just like so low in energy all the time. And then generally people play catch up on rest days. Most people kind of overeat on rest days or the weekends or days where there's not a lot of training and play catch up. And you really need to it's kind of like the pyramid concept. You kind of need more food at the time when you need it and less food or less fuel at other times when you don't need it as well. Catherine said, Alex said, death's harder this time with a toddler. Amen. And Catherine said, must be time for another coffee here. Side note, I made the massaman curry last night and it was so good. I did make it beef though, as I'm not a huge tofu fan. Maybe do half beef, half tofu, Catherine, so that you can kind of get a bit of that plant-based variety in your diet. I feel you. If you're a meat eater, having tofu curry is doesn't quite hit the spot, but throw some tofu in there because it's actually really good. Art said, well, I missed most of this, but that was a golden nugget about getting a good healthy foundation and then adding the sports nutrition on top of that. I just assumed sports nutrition was its own thing. There you go. Gold nuggets everywhere here on Coffee and Questions. You just got to watch to the end. And if you miss the start, you got to go back and watch it. But yeah, that's how I like to build my pyramid as a sports dietitian is you need to get those foundations right first and then build on top of that. So yeah, cool. Good chat, guys. I think my coffee's finally kicked in, so it might be time to get stuck in and do some work. And I will see you online next week. Have a good weekend, and thanks for joining.